Hi, this is Marty with FLIR Security's TCX Training Department. We're here today to talk about MapBuilder, one of the applications that we have built into Latitude that lets our customers build their own maps. Now we do have, you can notice right here on the left-hand side, I'm in my logical view, and you can see we do have a default GIS map, and this is the different style of maps that we use with the integration between Google Earth, excuse me, and Google Maps. It does need a license, but doesn't cost you anything. So we do have this option as well, and there is another training video that talks about the default GIS maps. Now, GIS, of course, being the Global Information System, so it's going to plot certain things using latitude and longitude. Now we can use a little bit of latitude and longitude here in our map builder, but it's not the primary thing that it's based on like the other maps are. So we have our default GIS map, but down here in our applications menu, you can see we actually have Map Builder as well. Now I've got a few maps staged, as you can see here. I've got a floor 1 map, a floor 2 map, a stadium map, etc. Now what we need to do before we can actually create them and have them show up here is we do need to go to the Map Builder application. So let's go ahead and just launch that so we can take a look. Now it just so happens I've got my second floor map in here right now, and if I just want to close that map, I can click on the far right button up at the top. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that one. Now I can bring in any of the existing ones that I've got right here, but or any of the existing things here. But first we need an actual map. So we'll just run across these buttons right here. This is open new map, or open existing map, excuse me, which we can show in a second. Here is new map, which we're going to do right now just so we can see it. Now we do have to open an existing map whenever we want to edit a map after the fact. So we'll definitely come back and see that. So new map, which is what we're going to do here in a second. And then we have a series of 3 buttons here where we can add certain items to the map itself that are not listed over here, because we can add these things as well. So if you look at the first one right here, it is an add a button, and that button does have an option to tie a JavaScript to the button itself. So when you push the button, it fires the script. The script does whatever you want it to do, unlock a door, whatever it is. The next one here is add a general image, right? A picture of any kind. It's got to be a GIF image, so keep that in mind. The next one here is add a text label. So you can see these 3 things are very simple things we can add to give some information here, right? Text label, general image, whatever picture you want to put on there. You have the option to do that, and I'll show that. Or a button, which can be functional, right? You can click the button and something can happen. And then at the end here, of course, we have, this is actually save map. We don't have one yet. Save as, so you can change the name of it, and then close map, which we've already seen. We also have this auto scale map, which sort of centers things and puts it in the middle of the page when you're in Control Center, and I always like to add that. So we'll go ahead and auto scale, but we actually need a map. So let's go ahead and click on new map. All right, you can see here it's looking for a map itself. I've actually just placed a picture of Carter Finley Stadium right down here on my desktop. So let's go ahead and use this one as the background image. You can see it's the football stadium for the NC State Wolfpack here in the state of North Carolina where I live. Now, you can see it's just basically a background picture. This is not interactive. This is not part of Google Earth or Google Maps, even though that's where I did get this image from. Now, so once we have the map right here, we can start adding a few things, and I'm going to go and show you some of the maps that we've already got things on, but I just want to talk about adding them to the map initially. So there's a couple of things we can actually do. You can add a text label. It comes up right here. Now, whenever you go to click on or add any component of the map builder, you always have the options down here at the bottom to change whatever you like and whatever you don't like, etc. So notice it's yellow. I can easily come right down here and change that to whatever color I want. As you can see here, I'll just leave it yellow for now. There's other things on here like location, right? The settings here are relatively straightforward. The font that the word is actually showing up there, I could of course change that to any other font that I want simply by clicking. I could bold it, right? Let's just do that so you can see the difference. Now it's bolded, and the word default, which is in the box or the text box, is coming right from here. So if I could maybe call this an area of interest. Might be too many words for that small box, but we'll see what happens. It's small. It makes the typeface smaller, of course. I'm just trying to indicate, like maybe they'll put it on the end zone for whatever reason. It's just a text box, right? So you can add some information. It's not interactive. You don't push the button. It just shows whatever you type in there in that format. Now, if you move it around, of course, you'll see the location. It's just plotting it on the map itself. Notice it's 565.338 if I were to move it over here. You can see once I click back on there, it changes it to the actual location where it is on the map right now. So, we can see that it's pretty straightforward stuff. The text box or add a text label. The one to the left of that is just add a general image, right? And it's literally any general image at all. I'll just leave it as it is for right now. I could replace this, of course, and you could tell, I'll show you here under the picture itself. The picture is simply coming from a default custom image GIF. If you replaced it with something else of your own, let's see, I got a picture of myself. Let's go ahead and you can see there we go. Now the size, of course, can be changed and cropped using the size area right here. It's 400 by 400 right now. Obviously for this map it's much too large. So what I'm going to do is just, I could either just change image. It's looking for another one. I can put President Trump in there because he's a GIF image on that. But what I'm going to do is just remove that so you can see. So the image itself you can put on there. I don't see that it has a lot of use maybe. It's not interactive. It's literally just a picture, whatever you want. And then finally the add button one. And this one is kind of cool. So if we go ahead and click on add button, you can see the default button comes up. And the reason it says default there is because the word default is right down here. So if I were to click on or change that to click me, for instance, as soon as I click in there, you can see the thing has changed to click me now. The tooltip doesn't really have one. I guess this stands for button 0, but nothing shows up. You can put words in there if you want to, and as soon as you hover over your mouse over it, of course, it would play the tooltip. And you can change the size of that button as well. Now you can see right here under size, oops, I closed it. Under size, we have a width and a height. You can see by here it's 80 wide by 23 tall. If I wanted to change that and make it, say, 80 tall as well, as soon as I click away from it, you can see the button has changed now to an 80 by 80. And we can adjust these at our leisure. Same with the location, 395.263. That's just the XY axis. As soon as you move it, click down in here again, and now displays the new area that it is at. So you can see you can add a button, you can add a text label of some kind, and you can add a picture, whatever you want to, on the map. Now, what I like about this button right here, however, is if you look up at the top, it's got an event, and on click, and it basically tells you right here, you need a JavaScript script, basically, and you need to put it basically in here. And I don't have one handy, but you can see the the potential to have a button that I can make something invoke. And that's really what the JavaScript thing is all about. You simply put in your script right here, and then when somebody clicks the button, it runs the script to do basically whatever you want it to do. So other than these three things, of course, we can also add some of the components that are in our logical view over here. For instance, cameras. That would be the most obvious one, right? I can grab this camera here, drag it. Maybe it's right up here at the top. And once the camera goes in, again, we can adjust some of the settings that that item actually has. Now, if you look at the very top, it's easier, I think, just to collapse everything so you can see it first. Pictures, of course. This picture right here is coming from the pictures that are listed right here. And you can tell exactly which one is. The focused picture just means the picture of that camera there. And again, it's coming from a generic thing. You could replace this camera with any other camera picture that you wanted to. It would have to be a GIF file, though. Now, these things are tied to different pictures simply because it'll show the state of the camera itself in Control Center. Now, keep in mind, we're looking at it in Admin Center, so you're not going to see some of those functions until we go to Control Center and actually take a look at it. But if the camera gets locked for whatever reason, you can see right here, just by highlighting, it tells you exactly what it is. And then if the camera goes not accessible, of course, you get a different picture. It's the same picture, basically, with an X through it, right? I mean, so depending on the state of the camera and the mode that it's in, it will change the picture based on these pictures that are listed right here. Again, every one of these can be replaced by pictures of your own. Now, the camera itself, we expanded the pictures. We're going to close them. And now if we look at the settings, we can see the location, of course, where it's plotted on the map right now. If I move that, it would change the plotting. Show live is an important thing, too, and it actually tells you right here in Control Center, if I want to see a live view of that camera when I hover my mouse over it, I have to change this false, of course, which it is by default, over to true. As soon as I do that, well, you're not going to see it here, right? We're still in Admin Center, but in Control Center, you actually see the picture of the camera when you hover over it. And then finally, there's the size. Of course, I could change the size as well. Notice it's 24 by 24. If I were to knock that down to, well, if I just do one of them, you can see it'll change it halfway. I'll double it so you can see it. And as soon as I click away, now it's doubled to that side. And I could do the same thing for this number. But let's just put this back to 24 so it looks normal. as it does now. Now the tooltip itself, sometimes the camera name, of course, is quite long and takes up some real estate. So most of the time people will come down here and the tooltip will actually be what it is. So maybe I'll say this is the end zone camera. And now as soon as I click away, now if I hover over it, it does call it the end zone camera. Now we can actually put layouts on here as well, and you'll see some of these on my other individual maps that I have created over the last few days. But if I take the floor one layout, for instance, I can throw that on a map. And again, when I hover over it, it tells me that it is the floor one layout. This is the indicator for the layout. Now, if you don't like that picture for the layout, of course, we talked about it already. You can replace those yourselves. Under the settings, same with location and size, just like everything else. And tooltip, it's called floor one already, coming right here from its name, and applies it to that as well. So obviously just throwing them in the middle of here would not make a whole lot of sense, but one thing that I also like is the ability to link maps together. Now this is called Carter Finley, right, this map here. I have another map called Stadium, which is the University of North Carolina Stadium down the road. And that one actually has some links to that, and I can show you exactly how to do it. So if I wanted to link, say, to the other stadium map, right? That's already existing here. It's not the one we're working on now. I could simply put it down here, put it in an area maybe where I could link to it. And then if I hover the mouse over it, it does say stadium. It knows its map. Let's go ahead and throw floor one map on there as well. When you're using maps, a lot of times the ability to link back and forth between those maps is a really good thing. Say, for instance, I could put a text box around a certain building, and then I could, have a link to the map for floor one, floor two, etc., put right in there, so I'll know that if something happens in that building, not only can I, see cameras possibly that are here with my layouts, right? I can show all my cameras from there, but I can also link to that other map as well, to either the floor one or the floor two map. And since we're going crazy, let's go ahead and link it to the stadium map as well. Oops. I think I already put the stadium one on there. Floor one, stadium. This I did, so it was floor two. That we want to add to that as well. So now I've got them all. Again, I could line them up. I could set the numbers right here, make it a little bit easier for myself, so they would line up in a nice straight line. And again, these are just the ability to click between maps. So we've seen we can add a button, we can add a text box, we can add a picture of my face, which we took off there, and we could add layouts, we can add cameras, and we can add links to other maps as well. So what we want to do now is, now notice, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to save our map. So we could either do save as or just save map. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now I have to tell the system where it's at, right? So let's go ahead and just create it. Let's throw it on my desktop. I already have a maps folder. So in that maps folder, I'll create this one. That puts the nice URL to it so the map can find itself later on. Now keep in mind, this is on my personal machine right now, and I'm only looking on my machine right now. Any control center operator would have to have access to whatever that location is, otherwise maps will not be displayed. So it's got to be on a networkable share, someplace that can be reached, a URL that is reachable. And for the name, we're just going to call this one Carter Finley, because that's the name of the stadium, and we hit save. All right, now the map is saved. We can close it. Don't need it here anymore, but you'll notice it doesn't appear anywhere in here, and that is what we need to do now. The secondary step, of course, to bring the map into the system is, of course, add a map, right? So if I right-click the icons here, oops, sometimes that freezes up when I'm doing maps. If I right-click the logical view here, you can see, I could add a GIS map, which is that other training video that's probably right next to this one in the page you're looking at. But what we want to do is add a map, and we have to create that map first, right? So if you add a map here, one needs to already exist. That's why we do MapBuilder first, and then once that's built and we save the map, then we come in here and we add it to our system. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Map. And now you can see this one we already know is going to be called Carter Finley. And it needs a description if you wanted one, it's NC State Stadium. But the URL to that path is actually what we need right now on our desktop. So if we go ahead and bring up our desktop, bring up our maps icon, our maps folder, excuse me. And here we go. There's the two different ones. This is my other one. This is Carter Finley. And this is the actual map that we need to pop up in our maps, or we need to add to the system itself. And it is an HTML page, as you can see, an HTML document. So what I need to do to find that path is I simply right-click the actual HTML page, go to its properties section. Now this is actually the path to the folder oops, that this is in. But I need to add, of course, the name of the map .htm, carterfinley.htm, to this for my URL. So let's go ahead and copy the path to the folder, place it in here, and you can see it works. So the map is actually up. I could rearrange this, right, make it even a closer map or something not quite as wide, because we're going to have all this white space over here. So the one thing, well, actually, we're going to need to save it first. I could enable a global positioning, right? I've actually got the GIS positioning for this map right here. I just right-clicked Carter Finley Stadium and chose the What's Here option. Right, I can just show you here again. What's Here? It actually gives you the longitude and the latitude for that exact spot as we're talking about it. So you can see the map is actually up right now. I do have my links to my other maps. Everything looks okay to me, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. All right, now we're going to go to Control Center, and we're going to take a look. Now, this is one of my other maps that I was looking at. This is the stadium map, right? The um, Keenan Memorial Stadium from the University of North Carolina. And again, this is just in a 1-by-1 layout that I've got right here. I just drag the map in, I can drag it back out. And now you can see I've got all of my individual maps right now. So I could go to my Carter Finley, that's the one we just created. Here is that click me button, right, that we don't have anything tied to right now. This is my text box. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. So you saw the click me button. You can see the links to the other maps. Now well, actually this is a brand new map. So generally if you're clicking links to other maps, you have to have the reciprocal link on the way back, right? So right now I could go to floor 2, but I'd be stuck there and I wouldn't be able to link back to any of the other maps. However, there is I have a couple of these already connected here. Stadium and floor 1 are both connected. So once I get to either one of these, I can go back and forth, but that's it. So I go ahead and double click. You can see it takes me to the floor 1. On the floor 1, I've got a bunch of series of the same buttons we had before. This will click me back to the stadium. So what I need really to make the round robin is to go to my stadium map and add a link to Carter Finley Stadium. So you can see how easy it is. Here's floor 1 layout. If I were to double click, it would actually take me to the floor 1 layout, which are the 2 cameras that I have attached to this, plus the map itself. I've already created this. We also have a floor 2 layout. Again, that we have these maps within those layouts. So you can see on here, on this one, I can go back to the stadium, of course, double click, and it brings it up. I'm in that floor 1 layout right now. That's why it's not showing it. So right here, basically, if I were to click on stadium, it would take me to the stadium map itself. Again, the zone of interest, here's our text file. Here's our button that we can add. Again, not tied to anything because I don't have a JavaScript in there. Here are my other maps that I've got, floor 1 and floor 2. And you can see how easy this is. Now, once I get to floor 2, however, I don't have anywhere to link back, right? There's no links to the other maps right there, just the cameras. Now, this is what I was showing you before. By turning on this live versus false, true versus false for the live camera look, when an operator hovers their cameras or their mouse over the camera, they're able to see the image. So finally, I want to show you how to edit one of these maps now that they exist. They're here. There's not much we can do with them in Control Center except use them, right? We need to edit them back into Admin Center. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this down. Let's go back to Admin Center. And in Admin Center, again, notice the map has come up. This is what the map itself was created. I could rename it. I could give it a different URL if the picture was not good enough, or I could maybe increase the size of this picture, right, the length of this picture, so it would cover the whole screen itself. That's why you saw this whiteness also in the Control Center application. But I can't edit anything. There's nothing that I can do here to change anything at all. It's just like those settings we saw when we were first creating it. So what we need to do to edit this map, and this is the Carter Finley map, is simply go back into the Map Builder. So let's go ahead and take a look in Applications, back in Map Builder. Now instead, well, it just happens to be there right now, but even if it wasn't, for instance, and we just came here, and that's just because I built it while it was there, all we need to do is go to Open Map, and Maps, and Carter Finley, and again, this is the HTML file, so double click, and now it's here. And now again, we can adjust any of these things. The click me button, I could change all this stuff. I could change this to something else. Boom. And then once we're done, we simply hit save, and we're good to go. and go right back into Control Center. Now, if your map is displayed, and this is very similar to if I go to Tools and Options and make some setting changes in Control Center. If you have existing cameras or maps showing right here, say I had Carter Finley and it still said click me, I would have to just move the map out and move it back in again to see that new change. So I can move this map out of here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Carter Finley map. And you can see the change has been applied.